morning. I'm very pleased to welcome you all here today to hear about the future of the University of Maine at Presque Isle and at least one aspect of the future of higher education in Maine and the nation. As the president of the University of Maine at Presque Isle, I'm proud to be here to tell you about the exciting work that our faculty and staff on the campus have been doing, how our institution is changing, and what it means for the state and the nation. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce the other individuals who will be speaking this morning in speaking order. First, the Chancellor of the University of Maine System, Jim Page. Second will be the Maine Commissioner of Education, James Ryer. Third will be Yellow Light Breen, a board member for Educate Maine. And finally, Duke Albanese, the Senior Policy Advisor from Great Schools Partnership. So, the announcement itself is that the University of Maine at Presque Isle is transforming the way learning occurs. We will now deliver what is called a proficiency-based education. We are the first university in Maine and one of the first in the nation to take this step. So why are we doing this? And what exactly does it mean? So why? First of all, it builds upon the university's history of excellent teaching and faculty and students who work very, very closely together. Second, as many of you know, Maine's public high schools are transitioning to proficiency-based education, and we know that there will be students graduating from those high schools who will learn best in this way, and we want to be positioned to serve those students. And finally, we completely believe that this is a form of education that will allow many more people to achieve a college degree. So ultimately, for us, that's what it's about, increasing the number of people here in the state of Maine who are able to get college degrees. So what does it mean? How is it different? Well, we could spend a lot of time on that, so I'll just hit a few highlights. First of all, students will learn and professors will teach differently. Professors will still determine what it is that students need to be able to know and do when they become proficient in a subject or a skill. But students will have choices about how they acquire and prove their competency. Our teaching methods will be based upon neuroscience research on how learning really occurs in the brain to make sure that the learning is long-term and deep, not just superficial memorization. Another difference is that students won't be asked to repeat topics that they've already mastered just in order to fulfill a curricular requirement. And if students need additional time to achieve mastery, they will be able to take that extra time. We will use prior learning assessment. It could be through testing, or it could be through portfolios that students assemble to find out what students already know and let them move on without repeating material. We know that this will challenge our traditional calendar. We don't have all the answers for exactly how we will respond to that, but we will be responding. A third difference is that learning can and does occur outside the classroom. We will utilize technology to enable anytime, anyplace learning, and we will engage our staff members, not only our faculty, but our staff members in student activities and in residence life to collaborate with the faculty on how to extend learning throughout the day and to the range of experiences that students have when they're on campus, whether they're on an athletic team or leading a student club or engaging in a community service project. Finally, our career preparation will be integrated throughout a student's college experience, not added on as just a few workshops that they go to at the end of their senior year. UMPI is working with employers to understand what competencies they need in their future workforce and to make sure that our graduates will demonstrate those competencies. Now, that's not to say that we want students only to study one thing, such as business. We want our students to study whatever sets their hearts on fire, whatever their passion is. But we want them also to be able to articulate what transferable skills they are acquiring as they pursue that passion. Perhaps someone loves U.S. history. That's fabulous. But we want them, in addition to be able to talk about that, to be able to talk about the skills that they're acquiring, the research skills, the analytical abilities, the ability to communicate clearly and concisely. And employers are partnering with us to do things such as come to campus to review student resumes, conduct mock interviews, provide tours of their workplaces, and to provide internships for our students. So what's the timeline for this big change? We are beginning our first class next fall. We'll enter into this environment, and we expect to have the entire university transition within 3 to 4 years. We will be guided in this work by our new institutional vision. This vision was developed during the last year through lots of conversations across campus. We're going to unveil the vision right now.
We forgot to bring a cloth to do this properly.
So the vision of the University of Maine is that we will design a personalized, technologically innovative education with each student and prepare each graduate for a professional career, global contributions, and lifelong learning. There's significance to most of the words in that vision statement, such as design and technologically innovative, and I'd be happy to talk more about those later. Essentially, this vision means we must rethink almost everything we do. How do you assess student learning in this kind of system? How will we credential students' proficiencies and ensure that other institutions will confidently accept our transfers or admit our graduates into their graduate or professional programs? We are beginning by rethinking how we teach and learn, but we will go on to those other issues as well. We are deeply appreciative to have gotten external financial support that will help us with this project. The Davis Educational Foundation has awarded us a grant of about $200,000 that will be used to provide professional development to our faculty and staff and to help us learn alongside public school teachers and administrators as they continue their transition to this new form of education. One of the things that we're doing with the Davis Educational Foundation grant is establishing what we're calling Innovative Teaching Fellows. These are faculty members who will be among the first to undergo this additional training and transition their classes. This year we will have a cohort of 19 of our faculty members going through this extensive training over the spring and the summer. We're being assisted by a consultant from Great Schools Partnership, and we will be learning much more about this throughout the following months. And then we'll continue to provide professional development to the rest of our faculty, and next year have another group of Innovative Teaching Fellows. We also know that it's important to have the voice of students represented as we develop this new form of learning. So from our budget, we are providing 15 $1,000 scholarships to students who are graduating out of proficiency-based high schools. We are actively seeking the students coming from these high schools because we firmly believe they will be activated and engaged learners and that they can help us create this new university. So, I have a lot more I could tell you, but for now, I'm going to stop and turn it over to Chancellor Page.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I'm going to be relatively brief. There's a lot more details that others can furnish, but I wanted to make a couple of points. First of all, on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the University of Maine system, we could not be more pleased with the work that President Schott and her team at the University of Maine at Presque Isle, together with our external partners, have done to make this possible. This is reacting to and leading the way with respect to any number of national and state trends about learning expectations, about expectations that employers and businesses have about the students they will engage in the future. And one of the great things about this initiative is that President Schott has ensured that in setting this program up, designing it and beginning the implementation, that she has reached out and is working with students, working with schools to see these developments, specifically here in Maine, how they are formulating, how they're taking shape in the schools. These changes are taking shape, and working with employers to say, given these changes, how are you going to be affected, and how are your needs going to be met in this new form of pedagogy and education. She's done great work in setting this up, and in doing so establishing the University of Maine at Presque Isle as not only a statewide leader, but a national leader in this initiative. It's a new, it is a major change in the way many things are done, and we're going to be learning a lot about how that works over the next few years, and Presque Isle is going to be at the forefront of understanding that change and leading that change, not only for other universities in our systems, but for higher education throughout the region and nationwide. So we could not be more pleased and more supportive of the initiative. The final thing I will say is that, again, to thank you for to thank our partners in this, both the private sector and public sector. These are major changes. They encompass the work that's going on in our schools, the changes that are going on nationwide in our educational portfolios, and the expectations that our communities and businesses have about the role education and higher education is going to play in their activities and lives. And so thank them to all of them. Several of you are here today, and we ask you to stay engaged with us, to keep an eye on this great change, and over the course of the next year or two, we will be learning a lot more and be anxious to convey that to you. In doing so, we're looking to use this as another example about how the University of Maine system is working to be the most responsive we can possibly be to our students, to the families, communities, and businesses of the state of Maine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for the opportunity to participate today in this exciting announcement on behalf of the Department of Education. I couldn't be more supportive and encouraging about seeing this happen because I'm a big fan of continuity between K-12 and post-secondary and careers, something I think needs always to have emphasis, and this is a perfect example of that kind of continuity that we're looking for all over. Perhaps nothing puts students first more than proficiency-based education. The model is built around the reality that while students learn in different ways and are inspired in different ways, speed, proficiency, and ultimately the most critical outcome of their schooling, accordingly, a proficiency-based learning environment advancement is based upon the turning of the calendar page, is not based on turning of the calendar page, but on demonstration of mastery of expected learning standards. At the K-12 level, the law signed by Governor LePage in 2012 establishes the expectation that by 2018, Maine high schools will award diplomas based on students having achieved proficiency in critical content areas like math and English language arts. While our department recognizes this transition is a heavy lift for many schools, our students and their futures deserve no less. Currently, the gap between the percentage of students who graduate from Maine high schools who are proficient in reading and math is 36%, meaning we are graduating thousands of students each year, knowing they are unprepared for the world that awaits them. This is no longer acceptable. As we move toward proficiency-based diploma requirement, the Maine graduates will be confident their diploma truly means they are leaving high school and moving on to post-secondary with the skills they need for success in career and civic life. By incentivizing students from a proficiency-based K-12 system to attend the university and be at the table in developing the new model, University of Maine at Presque Isle is epitomizing the very essence of a learner-centered system, putting students in the driver's seat in their own education. University of Maine Presque Isle's leadership also helps bridge the gap that is all too wide between K-12 and post-secondary education, which I mentioned before. Fostering a more seamless transition from one system to the next will better serve our students and our state. It reinforces post-secondary institutions welcoming graduates of proficiency-based systems, knowing these students will be ready for the rigor of the college studies. This approach may additionally help the university attract students who may not have considered a Northern Maine college, for instance, but found great value in their proficiency-based K-12 education experience and want to continue. Again, I think it's important to be drawing that connect and continuity between post-secondary and K-12 education. Our department is especially excited about what University of Maine Presque Isle will employ a proficiency-based approach in their college education, ensuring that the next generation of Maine teachers will be prepared to lead Maine's growing number of proficiency-based classrooms. It is my hope that other teacher preparation programs in the state will follow your lead, and I am encouraged that several, including Husson, University of Maine Farmington, have already begun to show interest in doing so. Finally, I believe that University of Maine Presque Isle voluntary adoption of this model sends a strong message to the K-12 system that proficiency-based in the new normal is the new normal in Maine education, not just because it's required by state statute, but because this is the right thing to do for our kids. Before I close, I want to acknowledge that the Aroostook County K-12 schools have been at the forefront of adopting innovative new approaches to teaching and learning. Given this, it's no surprise that one of the universities would be a leader as well. And I want to thank University of Maine Presque Isle for working so closely to support that work. And again, the continuity between K-12 and post-secondary. University of Maine Presque Isle is and should be seen as a leader in doing that. On behalf of the Maine Department of Education and LePage administration, I want to congratulate University of Maine Presque Isle on getting out ahead of what kids need, want, and are capable of creating conditions in the classroom that foster proficiency, furthering Maine's reputation across the country as the state of education innovation. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for listening. I am particularly excited about this whole effort because I think it's extremely important, and I couldn't say more about the importance of that integration and coordination between K-12 and post-secondary and career, and it's really happening here, and I'm very supportive of that and hope that we can duplicate these efforts across the state.
I'm yellow light green. My day job is as an executive at Bangor Savings Bank, but it's been my privilege to be a board member for many years of Educate Maine. Educate Maine is a business-led advocacy group that fights hard for both K-12 and higher education to take attainment levels in Maine to another level. The goal that we set last year as an organization for the state, and we've asked other stakeholders around Maine to join with us on, is to increase our post-secondary attainment, college degrees, industry certifications, to 50% a decade out, which we think will be pretty close where the rest of New England is. That's not going to be easy to do, and it's going to take leadership and innovation like what UMPI Press Conf is committed itself to do today to help the state get there. Educate Maine was the lead group in bringing together the coalition that lobbied for proficiency-based learning to be enacted in the Maine legislature several years ago. And we continue to want to be part of the fight to ask those tough questions of, now we set that vision, how do we get there? So I'm really excited to be here for a number of reasons. And that is primarily because we're focused on the learner today. That's really the magic behind innovation in education, is not about all the structural constraints, the financial constraints, the organizational challenges that we all have to master, but to keep the focus always on the learner and build everything else that we're doing around the learner, both K-12 and post-secondary, and to stay focused on what the learner knows and is able to do. And that's what proficiency-based learning is all about. As a non-educator, I constantly have to learn the jargon that is current in education reform today. But at its root, make no mistake, that proficiency-based learning is really the natural continuation of what we've been working on for the last 15 or 20 years. And it's saying we've raised the standards. We've committed Maine to really rigorous standards for our K-12 learners and now for our college learners as well. The critical question is, how do we get there? You can't get there just doing the same old thing the same old way and hope that somehow students respond differently and absorb the material. I was struck as I was thinking about this topic, watching and listening and reading about high performers in the Olympic Games and how those icons in these sports have redefined oftentimes how you prepare, let alone how you perform in these athletic events. It's not enough to just say, we've set a high standard, we want to win a gold medal. You've got to lay down a YOLO flip 1440 in order to win the gold medal. So you have to change what you're going to do, and you're going to have to change how you prepare in order to reach a higher bar. That's what defines success for many of these athletes. And frankly, this isn't easy stuff. We are asking college faculty and K-12 faculty to deliver YOLO flip 1440s in competition that they haven't done before. And to make that happen, it's critical that K-12 and higher ed be working together in preparing teachers, supporting teachers, dealing with students as they move through the continuum so that it's seamless for the students. And frankly, as important as anything else, communicating to parents and communities, this makes sense, we're in it together. One of the most exciting things about this to me is the scholarship program that Linda talked about, because that says in a very concrete way to parents and communities and kids who are wondering, what is this new approach? Will colleges understand these new types of transcripts that are reflecting standards-based proficiency learning? And Linda's sending a powerful message with her faculty. We get it, and not only do we get it, but we're rewarding it and encouraging it. That's a really powerful message to flow downhill to K-12. As Jim Ryer said, one of our biggest concerns at Educate Maine has always been the pieces of the education pipeline working well together. And to have this leadership from higher ed mobilizing K-12 across the county as well is really, really fantastic. When I talked last summer to the people in the Human Resources Department at Bangor Savings, the people that do our hiring day to day, I said to them, you know, what are the #1 issues you would want me to convey to K-12 school superintendents about what you need? And they said, real-world experience. Any real-world experience. And so the ability to apply what you're learning, which UMPI is committing itself to do with its students, is really, really important to the business community and to employers. And they said, coupled with that, the ability, when you go to apply for a job, to explain what you can do and to apply what you've already done to the skills required in the job you're seeking. They said you would be amazed how many students and job applicants cannot do that. Even when they have relevant experience, they haven't learned how to convey that and to package it and apply it to a new circumstance. Proficiency-based learning and the kinds of programming that Linda's putting together to go with it helps those job applicants get to precisely where our HR department and HR departments around the state need them to get to. A couple of other quick things in closing. I'm really excited to be here today because it's also a great reminder of this, that leadership, excellence, and innovation doesn't just come from certain places in Maine. I was at Searsport High School on Monday, who has been a leader over the last 8 years in proficiency-based learning. They came to it out of necessity. They lost their high school accreditation, and they were saying to themselves, what do we do differently to take this to a different place? The community has embraced it. And I toured the program where they're working with high school kids on building boats down at the Hamilton Learning Center. So Hamilton Marine, the people who run Front Street Shipyard in Belfast, they're working with the schools on this proficiency-based stuff, just like will happen in the county. And here's the dirty little secret. You can't build a boat unless you know geometry. So they're tricking these kids, if you will, into mastering this stuff to levels that they may have never imagined. And so when you give kids an understanding of what they need to learn, and you give them some flexibility and options in how they learn it, magic can happen. We heard kids from Searsport High School present to our group a couple of years ago. And it was truly striking how the learners, the kids and the college students, I'm sure, take to this stuff. they really appreciate, here's what I have to master, here's the things I've already mastered, here's the pieces I still need to work on, and there's constant help and interventions in how I get there. It's not the exception. Well, you can go outside of class someday and ask for help if you need it. It's built into the philosophy that every learner is trying to master this stuff and master it in different ways, but they're not going to get away with it unless they master the subject. So excellence and innovation occurs in Searsport, it occurs in Jackman, it occurs in Guilford. I remember when we rolled out the Maine Learning Technology laptop program a few years ago, and when the state said we're going to do this, the people in little old Guilford, Maine said, hey, if being first is great for Maine, then being first is even better for our community in Guilford. And it's happening in Presque Isle. We have these pockets of excellence and innovation. And I hope with the example that Linda's setting and that UMaine Presque Isle is setting, that other college campuses and K-12 schools across the state will be inspired, they will be appreciative, and they'll have a beacon to say, we can do this, and we're partnering with higher ed to do it. So Educate Maine congratulates UMaine Presque Isle. Congratulations to the Davis Foundation for recognizing this vision, and we hope this starts happening all over Maine.
Thank you, Yellow. I have to say that today there are 9 students from Searsport High School on the University of Maine at Presque Isle campus because of this connection that we've made. Now I will introduce Duke Albanese, Senior Policy Advisor at Great Schools Partnership. But I want to take just a second to say that if it weren't for Duke, I probably wouldn't be standing here today, because it was just over a little bit more than a year ago that I sent an email off to this man named Duke something I'd never met, saying, do you think there's a place for a college to do this kind of thing? And it was because of his immediate and overwhelmingly positive response that I got connected with a lot of good people, and we got this whole project rolling. So thank you, Duke, and the stage is yours.
Right. Well, that's how I was going to start out. I mean, a little more than a year ago. You know, I had this conversation with President Schott, and you know, many of us have been working hard for a long while to see that proficiency-based learning and graduation and a standards-based approach to teaching and learning in all of our schools becomes reality. I mean, Yellow can speak to that, Jim Ryan can speak to that. This has been a long journey for Maine, and now it's real. And to have the backing of a college or a university, and this Linda Schott starts describing her vision and what it could be at the University of Maine Presque Isle, and I have to say, I was more than wowed. It was that good. And all I could think of is that we've been working really hard across Maine and across New England, particularly at our organization, the Great Schools Partnership, to try to get higher education, the collegiate world, to lend support to the notions of change that are coming in high schools, hoping that that's going to sort of get some traction in higher education. And this president is going way beyond that, and her intent is to say, you know, it's sort of like we want to skate to where the puck is going to be. I mean, sort of the great Gretzky's hockey line, it applies to education as well. You know, these students are in these schools all over Maine. It's law. By the way, it's law in New Hampshire and Vermont. So this is something that's not going to go away across the country. I was in Madison, Wisconsin this summer, working with the schools in that area who are, you know, we need to catch up to New England. We need to be able to get where Maine is. Maine's the leader in the notions of proficiency-based graduation. But to have a university say that, you know, there'll be a lot of students out there in changing secondary schools who are experiencing student-centered learning, that they have to demonstrate in overt ways what they know and what they're able to do. And wouldn't it be right for us as a university to say that we're going to go down the same road of change as we approach, you know, the collegiate educations of these young people? And wouldn't that be a great attraction from many of them? And I just listened in awe. And since that time, our organization, Craig Kesselheim, is a colleague of mine. He's been working closely with the faculty to have 19 members of the faculty step up to be fellows to get this work. This is remarkable. This is a big story for Maine. This is a big lift for the work in our schools. The class of 2018, so all the youngsters are in 8th grade in Maine. You know, their high school graduations will be dependent upon their demonstration of Maine's learning results and Maine's guiding principles, and they'll have to do that in overt ways. It is a way to build college and career readiness, and there's going to be a good number of those young people who are going to end up moving their learning to the campus of the University of Maine Presque Isle. But this is a big deal for New England and for the country. I mean, I don't know of another really singular university or college in the country who is trying to do it in this pure way, really honoring sort of, kind of blurring the lines when it's sort of a handoff. You know, the secondary schools, K-12, we hand off the students to the workplace and to colleges and careers, and that's what's happening here. And when you get collegiate leaders and faculties who are willing to say, we've looked at ourselves, student-centered, personalized learning is where we need to go. These kids need to be technologically advanced, and that we need to connect to our communities and give them real-life experiences. And that's what that's what students are having in the secondary schools. That all bodes well. So this is a super support for the secondary schools in our state, across New England, and around the country. And I would say that UMPI is where it's going to be for a whole lot of other collegiate institutions. So, I am more than impressed, and I salute all of the work. I do want to put a plug into the Chancellor and to the university system. The University of Maine system, all 7 campuses, were among the first to step up to lend support to Maine's movement to move to proficiency-based graduation and standards. And so that has come from the admissions offices, from the president, from the chancellors. But UMPI, what they're doing is way above anything. It's, that's the way teaching and learning is going to happen on our campus. So I think it's a great day, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Duke. I want to wrap it up. Just one more thing before I open it up for questions. Really, I think you've heard here, the goal is seamless transition from high school to the university to employment. To that end, our university has begun developing partnerships with high schools that are already or close to graduating students from a proficiency-based system. We have MOUs with several of the districts, and I have that MOU and a list that you can have later. Rachel has them. Likewise, we are developing partnerships with employers, and we have signed MOUs with about 15 employers. They will just be the first of many to come, and you can have a copy of that as well. So now we're happy to open it up to questions. In addition to those of us up here at front, UMPI's interim provost and vice president for academic affairs, Dr. Ray Rice, is here, and he can answer much more detailed questions if anybody would like to know exactly how this is going to work in the classroom starting next fall. Thank you so much for coming. We greatly appreciate it.